Hello everyone, our topic this week was requested by Jeleneth. We'll be going over the Dragon Slayers from the Divinity series.
Okay, so first things first. For those who are unaware, as far as we can determine, Larian Studios, the people behind the entirety of the Divinity series, have basically retconned the story of Divinity 2 Ego Draconis and Flames of Vengeance out of existence, choosing to canonize the events of the original Sin games in their stead. Again, so far as we can determine. Which means, as some of you have likely guessed, that the events of these separate games clash with one another. The Dragon Slayers, Dragons, and Dragon Knights play a pivotal role in Ego Draconis and Flames of Vengeance, so for those more familiar with the original Sin story, history, timeline, whatever you want to call it, we're going to go over some of the world setup before talking about the Dragon Slayers themselves.
In the first Divinity game, the main character plays the role of the Divine, a seeming mortal who ascends to roughly demigod status over his lifetime, because reasons. During this process, the Divine battles the Black Ring, a cult of zealots dedicated to seeing the Lord of Chaos, demons, and a host of other badness being brought to the world to sow chaos, fear, destruction, etc. Classic psycho evil villain mindset, you get the idea. Long story short, the Divine defeats the cult's then current leader, a demon, scattering their forces. However, he was unable to stop the completion of a ritual to bring the Lord of Chaos to this world, and thus the evil creature was instilled inside the body of a baby boy. Unable to bring himself to slay a defenseless infant guilty of nothing but being the focus for an evil cult's spell, the Divine opted instead to raise the boy in the hopes that he could be molded into a good person instead of being corrupted by the demonic power within him. For a long time, several years, it worked. The boy, Damian, was trained as one of the Divine's paladins, grew to be a strong and decent lad, and everything seemed to be going well. However, the Black Ring eventually learned of Damian's identity and whereabouts and sent Yggerna, a Black Ring member and powerful sorceress, to meet Damian, teach him of his heritage as the avatar for the Lord of Chaos, and help him bloom into the crazy demon monster they'd intended him to be in the first place.
Even longer story short, Yggerna and Damian fall in love. She's outed as an agent of the Black Ring and slain, ultimately leading to Damian joining and then leading the Black Ring in a battle of conquest and death against his adoptive father, the Divine. They and their forces engage in battle, with the Divine emerging victorious. Unwilling to kill Damian, who the Divine has by this point raised as his own son, the Divine instead proves that mercy is truly not always the kindest option, banishing Damian to another plane of existence and ensorceling Damian so that it would be all but impossible for him to leave that plane ever again. Damian eventually makes it back to Rivellon, the world of the Divinity games, but not before spending many years growing increasingly pissed and just generally more evil locked away in that other world. Upon returning, Damian once again engages the Divine in war, which once again culminates in a battle between the Divine and Damian. However, this time, things went a little differently.
An ancient and powerful order of beings known as the Dragon Knights had been recruited to the Divine's side, acting as some of his most powerful and steadfast warriors. Rivellon is home to dragons, ancient beings of incredible power that at some point long ago began infusing select mortals with aspects of a dragon's might. These beings became known as Dragon Knights, and the lowliest among them were still among the world's most elite and powerful beings. One ability for which they were particularly famous was the ability to assume the form of a dragon. This trait, combined with the true dragons appearing in the public eye less and less over time, eventually led to the dragons and dragon knights being thought of as the same creature. Thus, by the time of the then-current war between Damian and the Divine, when people spoke of dragons or dragon knights fighting on behalf of the Divine, they were speaking of the same people. Having such powerful opponents aligned against Damian caused him no end of trouble, and so he devised a plan to kill two birds with one stone. He had come up with a way to trap the Divine in another reality, much like the Divine had done to him years prior. The only difference being that the Divine would be able to watch, powerless, while Damian ransacked the world the Divine had sworn to protect. But Damian knew that if the Divine was shunted off to another dimension, the Divine's allies would spare no effort or expense in trying to bring him back. So instead, Damian arranged events to make it look like one of the Dragon Knights turned traitor and slew the unsuspecting Divine on Damian's behalf, when in fact Damian shunted the Divine off to this prison reality. This ruse did two things. First, it gave the entire world the impression that the Divine had been slain, meaning they wouldn't go looking for a way to free him from his secret prison. And second, made the Divine's most powerful allies and Damian's greatest enemies the scapegoats for the murder of the world's benevolent god. His plan had worked perfectly.
In the wake of the Divine's supposed death, Rivellon was racked with both grief and rage. Dragons, more realistically Dragon Knights, were seen as traitors, cowards, and monsters the world over. This was how the Dragon Slayer organization began. A group of warriors banded together, swearing that they would have justice, vengeance, really, for the Divine's death, and promising to rid the world of dragons entirely in retaliation for their betrayal. So great was the world's outrage that this small group of warriors found their ranks swelling, until the Dragon Slayers were not a group or even a simple mercenary-style band, but a fully fledged army. Armed with righteous fury, the Dragon Slayers earned their namesake, all but wiping out the known dragons and dragon knights in the years that followed. Meanwhile, Damian must have been laughing in the shadows as he rebuilt his forces away from the public eye, letting his enemies slaughter each other.
As the years passed and the ranks of dragons and/or dragon knights thinned, so too did the ranks of the Dragon Slayers. Some they lost in battle, but most left when the danger no longer seemed imminent and the greater population's outrage was spent. But that didn't make the Dragon Slayers any less dangerous to their quarry, far from it. What they lost in quantity, they gained in quality. By the time of the Ego Draconis and Flames of Vengeance storylines, the Dragon Slayer organization had become quite small, but they had also, as a whole, risen to a level of power almost as great as that held by the Dragon Knights before them. At this point in history, the Dragon Slayers that remained were the Zealous types. Slayers were brought into the organization at a young age, and they were trained and indoctrinated in their ways, much like Jedi or Sith. The Dragon Slayer organization trained its young recruits in the arts of war, combat, magic, even social and historical skills. A fully fledged Dragon Slayer was among the world's most elite warriors, skilled in arms, magic, and just generally well-educated as well.
However, as fate would have it, the story of the Dragon Knights and Dragon Slayers, intertwined since the birth of the Dragon Slayer organization, would culminate in a way that few would expect. By the time Ego Draconis begins, there is only one Dragon Knight in the entire world left, and, mortally wounded, she finds herself in the presence, and almost at the mercy of, the player character. A young Dragon Slayer, alone and separated from your allies. The Dragon Knights had never truly betrayed the Divine, never truly sided with Damian, and thus, while the world at large had hunted the Dragon Knights themselves, at least some of them, had kept their eyes on the horizon, watching for Damian's return. This last Dragon Knight knew that Damian was coming back, and worried that it would be sooner than later. And so, in desperation, she forced her powers into the protagonist with her final living breath. Thus, the player, a fully trained Dragon Slayer, also became the last living Dragon Knight, guided initially by the dead Dragon Knight's fading consciousness, making the player well above average even by either faction's standards. As the game progresses, the player becomes part of a plot to ensure that Damian is finally slain. However, the player is duped in the end, and it is revealed only after your success that all of your plans to end Damian's reign and life had been subverted, instead granting him immortality. Ego Draconis' final moments end with Yagurna, brought to life by your efforts, trapping you in the same prison realm as the Divine, who fills the Dragon Slayer turned Dragon Knight in on what happened. However, in Flames of Vengeance, the Dragon Knight is set free and ultimately is able to slay Yagurna, rendering Damian vulnerable to death once more, and also freeing the Divine to walk Rivellon in the process. Even though it is revealed that Damian is off somewhere increasing his power by the game's end, the world of Rivellon is looking better protected than it has been in a great while. With the Divine returned and the Dragon Knight powerful enough to have performed seemingly impossible feats standing alongside him, ready to handle whatever Damian's next plans throw their way.
And that's basically the story of the Dragon Slayers, misguided warriors who ultimately created their world's savior. We hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave us a like, and if you know someone who might enjoy this video, send it their way. If you have an idea for more videos you'd like to see us do in the future, do like Jeleneth and let us know in the comments down below. If you'd like to see more videos from us in the future, be they lore or Let's Play, go ahead and hit that subscribe button.
In the meantime, this has been True Masters and Morons, signing off.
Thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like it, hit this subscribe orb.
To see our last Let's Play, click or tap the link on the right.
For our last lore video, go to the link on the left.
And for a video chosen by the gods of YouTube from our channel, hit that link on top.
Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.